4. Architects of the Future. To draw stormlight out of a gemstone, I use the Arnest method. Several large empty gemstones are brought close to the infused one while the spren is inspecting it. Stormlight is slowly absorbed from a small gemstone by a very large gemstone of the same type, and several together can draw the light out quickly. The method's limitation is, of course, the fact that you need not merely acquire one gemstone for your fabrial, but several larger ones to withdraw the stormlight. Other methods must exist, as proven by the extremely large gemstone fabrials created by the Vristal Guild out of Thalena. If Her Majesty would please repeat my request to the Guild, this secret is of vital importance to the war effort. Lecture on Fabrial Mechanics presented by Navani Kolin to the Coalition of Monarchs, Urthiru, Yesivan, 1175. When they awoke, Radiant immediately took charge and assessed the situation. She had a sack over her head, so nobody saw her disorientation, and she was careful not to move and warn her captors. Shallan had fortunately attached her light weaving in such a way that it would keep up their illusory face, even while they were unconscious. Radiant didn't appear to be bound, though she was being carried over someone's shoulder. He smelled of chulls, or maybe it was the sack. Her body had activated her powers, healed her, and let her wake sooner than she would have otherwise. Radiant didn't like sneaking about or pretending, but she trusted that Vale and Shallan knew what they were doing. She instead did her part, judging the danger of the current situation. She seemed to be fine, though uncomfortable. Her head kept bouncing into the man's back, pressing the sack against her face with each step. Deep down, she felt satisfaction from Vale. They'd nearly given up on this mission. It was nice to know that all their work hadn't been in vain. Now, where were they taking her? That had proven one of the biggest mysteries, where the Sons of Honor held their little meetings. Shallan's team had managed to get one person into the group months ago, but he hadn't been important enough to be given the information they needed. A Light Eyes had been required. They suspected ELA had taken over the cult, now that Amaram was dead. Her faction was planning to seize the Oathgate at the center of the Shattered Plains. Unfortunately, Radiant didn't have proof of these facts, and she would not move against ELA without solid proof. Dalinar agreed with her, particularly after what Aderlin had done to ELA's husband. Too bad he didn't find a way to finish off the pair of them, Vale thought. That would not have been right, Radiant thought back. ELA was no threat to him then. Shallan didn't agree, and naturally Vale didn't either, so Radiant let the matter drop. Hopefully, Pattern was still following at a distance as instructed. Once the group stopped and began initiating Radiant, the Spren would fetch Aderlin and the soldiers in case she needed extraction. Eventually, her captors halted, and rough hands hauled her off the shoulder. She closed her eyes and forced herself to remain limp as they set her on the ground. Wet and slimy rock, someplace cool. The sack came off, and she smelled something pungent. When she didn't stir fast enough, someone dumped water on her head. It was time for Vale to take over. She gasped, awake, shoving aside her first instinct, which was to grab a knife and make short work of whoever had drenched her. Vale wiped her eyes with her safe-hand sleeve and found herself someplace dank and humid. Plants on the stone walls had pulled in at the ruckus, and the sky was a distant crack high in the air. Lifespren bobbed around many thick plants and vines. She was in one of the chasms. Kelek's breath! How had they carried her down into the chasms without anyone seeing? A group of people in black robes stood around her, each holding a brightly shining diamond brome in one palm. She blinked at the sharp light. Their hoods looked a fair bit more comfortable than her sack. Each robe was embroidered with the double eye of the Almighty, and Shallan had a fleeting thought, wondering at the seamstress they'd hired to do all this work. What had they told her? Yes, we want 20 identical mysterious robes sewn with ancient arcane symbols. They're for parties. Forcing herself to stay in character, Vale gazed up with wonder and confusion, then shied back against the chasm wall, startling a Kremling with dark purple colorings. A figure at the front spoke first, his voice deep and resonant.
Chanasha Hasare, you have a fine and reputable name, after the legacy of Chanarach Ilin, herald of the common man. Do you truly wish for their return?
Vale raised her hand before the light of the spheres. What is this? What is happening? And which one of you is Iale Sadius? We are the sons of honor, another figure said. Female this time, but not Iale. It is our sworn and sacred duty to usher in the return of the heralds, the return of storms, and the return of our God, the Almighty. Vale licked her lips. I don't understand.
You will, the first voice said. We've been watching you, and we find your passion to be worthy. You wish to oust the false king, the Blackthorn, and see the kingdom rightfully returned to the high princes? You wish the judgment of the Almighty to fall upon the wicked?
Of course, Vale said. Excellent, the woman said. Our faith in you is well placed. Vale was pretty sure that was Ulina, a member of Iale's inner circle. She'd initially been an unimportant, light-eyed scribe, but was rapidly climbing the social ladder in the new power dynamic of the war camps. Unfortunately, if Ulina was here, Iale probably was not. The High Princess often sent Ulina to do things she did not wish to do herself. That indicated Vale had failed in at least one of her goals. She hadn't made Chanasha seem important enough to deserve special attention.
We guided the return of the Radiants, the man said. Have you wondered why they appeared? Why all of this? The Everstorm, the awakening of the Parshmen, is happening? We orchestrated it. We are the grand architects of the future of Roshar.
Pattern would have enjoyed that lie. Vale found it wanting. A good lie, the delicious kind, hinted at hidden grandeur or further secrets. This was instead the lie of a drunken has-been at the bar, trying to drum up enough pity to get a free drink. It was more pathetic than interesting. Maireys had explained about this group and their efforts to bring back the heralds, who had actually never been gone. Gavilar had led them along, used their resources and their hearts to further his own goals. During that time, they'd briefly been important movers in the world. Much of that glory had faded when the old king had fallen, and Amaram had squandered the rest of it. These scattered remnants weren't architects of the future. They were a loose end, and even Radiant agreed that this task, given them by both Dalinar and secretly Maireys, was worthy. It was time to end the Sons of Honor once and for all. Vale looked up at the cultists, walking a careful line between appearing cautious and fawning. The Radiants. You're radiant?
We are something greater, the man said. But before we say more, you must be initiated.
I welcome any chance to serve, Vale said. But this is quite sudden. How can I be sure you're not agents of the false king seeking to trap people like me? All will be made clear in time, the woman said. And if I insist on proof? Vale said. The figures glanced at one another. Vale got the feeling they hadn't encountered much resistance during their previous recruitments. We serve the rightful queen of Alethkar, the woman finally said. Really? Vale breathed. Is she here?
Initiation first, the man said, gesturing to two others. They approached Vale, including a tall one whose robes came down only to mid-calf. He was notably rough as he grabbed her by the arms and hauled her upward, then repositioned her on her knees. Remember that one, she thought, as the other figure removed a glowing device from a black sack. The fabrial was set with 2 bright garnets and had a series of intricate wire loops. Shallan was particularly proud of that design, and although Vale had initially found it showy, she now recognized that was good for this group. They seemed to trust it implicitly as they held it up to her and pressed some buttons. The garnets went dark, and the figure proclaimed, "She bears no illusions." Selling them that device had been delicious fun. Wearing the guise of a mystic, Vale had used the device to expose one of her light weavers in a carefully planned scheme. Afterward, Vale had charged them double what Shallan had wanted, and the extravagant price had seemed only to make the sons believe in its power more. Almighty bless them. Your initiation, the man said. Swear to seek to restore the heralds, the church, and the Almighty.
I swear it, Vale said.
Swear to serve the Sons of Honor and uphold their sacred work.
I swear it.
Swear to the true queen of Alethkar, Ela Sadius.
I swear it.
Swear you do not serve the false Spren, who bow before Dalinar Kholin.
I swear it. See, the woman said, looking to one of her companions. If she'd been a radiant, she couldn't have sworn a false oath. Oh, you sweet, soft breeze, Vale thought. Bless you for being so naive. We're not all bondsmiths or their ilk. The Windrunners or Skybreakers might have had trouble being so glib with a broken promise, but Shallan's order was founded on the idea that all people lied, especially to themselves. She couldn't break an oath to her spren without consequences, but this group of human debris? She wouldn't think twice about it, though Radiant did express some discontent.
Rise, daughter of honor, the man said. Now we must replace your hood and return you. But fear not. One of us will soon contact you with further instructions and training.
Wait, Vale said. Queen Ela, I need to see her to prove to myself whom I'm serving. Perhaps you will earn this privilege, the woman said, sounding smug. Serve us well, and eventually you will receive greater rewards. Great. Vale braced herself for what that meant. More time in these war camps pretending to be a fussy, light-eyed woman, carefully worming her way up through the ranks. It sounded dreadful. Unfortunately, Dalinar was genuinely concerned about Ela's growing influence. This little cult here might be gaudy and overacted, but it would be unwise to let a martial presence grow unchecked. They couldn't risk another incident like Amaram's betrayal, which had cost thousands of lives. Besides, Mraize considered Ela to be dangerous. That was recommendation enough for Vale to see the woman brought down. So she'd have to keep working on this, and they'd therefore also have to find more ways to sneak Adolin out to spend time with Shallan. The girl wilted, if not given proper loving attention. For her sake, Vale tried again. I don't know if waiting is wise, she said to the others, as the tall man prepared to replace her sack. "You should know I have connections to Dalinar Kholin's inner circle. I can feed you information about his plans, if I'm properly incentivized." "There will be time for that," the woman said. "Later." "Don't you want to know what he's planning?"
"We already know," the man said, chuckling. "We have a source far closer to him than you."
"Wait. Wait!" Shallan came alert. They had someone near Dalinar? Perhaps they were lying, but could she risk that? "We need to do something," she thought. If Ialai had an operative in Dalinar's inner circle, it could be life-threatening. They didn't have time for Vale to slowly infiltrate her way to the top. They needed to know who this informant was now. Vale stepped back, letting Shallan take over. Radiant could fight, and Vale could lie. But when they needed a problem solved quickly, it was Shallan's turn. "Wait," Shallan said, standing up and pushing aside the man's hands as he tried to shove the sack over her head. "I'm not who you think I am.